Good morning. The light rope, daily transformation for the bold. So every day when I think about how to provide some inspiration, some ideas, and some powerful thoughts for you, I'm always challenged. Not because it's hard to think of things to talk about, because it's not. But I want to present something that's valuable to you and that you can do something with immediately. Something I struggled with for years, decades, was fitting in, was being told I was okay, was getting external validation. Now, I particularly wanted that from one of my parents, my mom, and that never happened, and probably never will. But I've long since made my peace with that. But here's the key. There are times when someone else's opinion about something matters. You're taking a driving test and you have to pass it in order to get a driver's license. Then the person giving the test, their opinion matters. It decides things, right? Same with any kind of a test. You're trying to pass the bar exam, or you're trying to, get board certified in another one thing or another, or pass the professional engineer exam. Those situations, that determination matters. But we expand the number of places where that matters to almost infinity. I'm not good enough unless so-and-so says so, or unless something takes place that pats me on the back and says, you're okay. Oh, I thought I was good. I'm sure I'm glad I got that. I'm okay now. And I know what that feels like. And more importantly, I know how many things I have not done, quit doing, done different, because I decided ahead of time somebody wouldn't think it was good enough. I don't want you to make the same mistake, because it did a couple of things. I never found out if those things actually were functional, would have worked, would have been able to make me money if I'd sold them, or be fulfilling to whoever was involved, because I never did them. I decided ahead of time. The second thing is I deprived everyone that might have found them useful the opportunity to do that. Now, here is my encouragement for you. I want to see what you have to offer. I want to see that. I don't want you to decide for me that I think your gift or talent is not useful. And I think a lot of people feel that way too. So ignore what people tell you. Ignore it. Most of the time. Now, there's some boundaries and stuff to that, and I'm not talking about every single time with every single thing. But I can almost say ignore it, because we use it so often. We don't say things if you have a job in your work. You don't say things because someone's not going to like you. You don't put forward ideas because last time someone didn't like yours, and so now you're afraid. Or at home, you don't speak up about how you think something ought to happen, or perhaps a better way to do something, because you don't want to have a confrontation or a problem, and you imagine the entire scenario in your mind. So I want to do two things today. Number one, I want to encourage you to build your own box. Forget about fitting in. Forget about doing things the way everyone else does. Just don't do that. All advances were made by someone who decided they were going to do it different. Outside the box, new way, different way. What about this? What if more is possible? Those kinds of questions are always necessary to get anything done, to get some advances. Now, you may not be ready to make a great breakthrough in some scientific realm, but you may well be ready to make a breakthrough for yourself. You may well have an idea about your business, or about how to help other folks, or about how to do something useful, or about just how to manage your own life that's outside the box. And then you look around and you don't see anybody doing that, or someone initially says, that's a dumb idea, and so you just buy that and you say, okay, fine, I won't try. How do you know that? How do you know that? So the first part of today is just build your own box. Now the second part of today, and there's only two parts, is how do you deal with when people are negative? You know, oh, that's really stupid. And they will. You're going to have naysayers. You're going to have people that, push against you or, call you names or do whatever. So what do you do with that? I know what I used to do. I used to internalize it, believe it, and then hide. Or I used to lash back out and try to prove them wrong and stir up a bunch of anger, and neither one of those ended well. The first one ended up with my feeling bad about myself and shriveling up, and the second one ended with some kind of argument or fight that was not, never productive and almost never solves anything. So there are two ways. There are more than two, but I'm going to tell you two things you can do. Number one, just accept that that's their opinion and not a fact. Thank you. I appreciate your opinion. And then ignore it in terms of whether or not you do or don't do something. If they made a valid point and you say, wow, that's a good point. I better think about that. Oh, that's fine. But just to abandon things. So don't get in a fight and an argument. It's not worth that. You don't change people's mind that way anyway. What would change people's mind is go ahead and do whatever it is you were thinking about doing, and then it works. And then they see, wow. And they may never acknowledge that they were wrong, et cetera, and who cares? So number one, just gracefully accept their opinion and understand the fundamental truth that someone else's opinion is just that. It is an opinion. And you know what they say about opinions, right? Everybody has one. So allow them the freedom to have an opinion and move on. The second thing you can do, if you are strong enough, is to open-mindedly ask some questions. If they've delivered that in an emotional way, that sucks. Probably not a good time. But if they've just said, that's a bad idea, you'll never make that happen. Something I do now, because I've learned to do the first one, is just ask questions. Wow. I thought, and I still think, that would actually be a great idea. So tell me what you see as the problems. And then usually the first round is, well, it's just stupid. Well, it'll just never work. Well, those kinds of thoughts, of course, that's a useless piece of information. So asking more detailed questions, well, exactly what? One of two, and then just keep asking questions until they get done talking. One of two things happen. One, you realize that it is no more than an opinion because they can't say anything specific and they're just going, well, just because, a lot of that kind of nonsense. And the second possibility is maybe there is one or two pieces of or kernels in there that you actually hadn't thought of, or that you hadn't thought of in a particular way, and you might learn something really useful and interesting and then go ahead and do what you were going to do anyway with a modification or taking into account this new idea. So that's the way to do that. My main thrust for you today and encouragement is do not be discouraged by the opinion of others. Do not be discouraged by their thoughts that you can't or won't succeed. Build your own box. Make your own way. Create your path forward. It is just as good and likely better than anyone else's. You have a unique perspective. You have unique gifts and talents. There's no doubt about that. The only question is, will you choose to use them? We'll see you tomorrow.